What is going on, everyone? Isaac Mashman here. You are now listening to episode 22 of Chase the Vision with Isaac Mashman, the podcast. Now, I have a very, very exciting episode for you today, packed with a lot of valuable information. But before I jump into today's episode, I want to go ahead and ask you guys for a favor. Now, you're probably like, if this is your first time listening, you're probably like, why is this guy asking for a favor within the first 20 seconds? Hear me out. The purpose of this podcast is to help as many people as possible recognize that they have full control over their life. To help as many people as possible learn the information that I have learned from my vast variety of mentors and through my experiences. My goal is to help you guys go and chase after your vision. And I'm all about cutting time frames. I have spent, plenty of time learning from other people who have made mistakes. I have made plenty of time making mistakes of my own. And it is important to take that information, apply it into your own life, and execute. And so I'm not about to run a whole bunch of different advertisements. If I ever run an advertisement, it is going to either be from someone who I know very, very closely, who I believe in their product 100%, or it's going to be my own products or my own services, as this is my show. Other than that, you're not going to hear 20 minutes of me talking about, the latest, greatest gadget that you can buy off of Alibaba. Like, I'm not about to do that to you guys. I value your time too much. I value my show and my branding way too much to just sell it out for a price tag. And so, guys, if you could take 30 seconds or a minute of your time after listening to today's episode, if you got any value from it, and share it with a friend of yours, share it with a sibling, with your mom, with your brother, with your sister, with your best friend, anybody who you think would get value from it just as much as you did, I would greatly appreciate that. And I ask that you do that at the end of every single episode that you listen to. So far, I've recorded 21 episodes. This is the 22nd episode. And so, every single time, take a little bit of time to share it. That is the only way that this podcast is ever going to grow. And, I could spend a bunch of money on advertisements. I could spend a bunch of money or a bunch of time sitting down and messaging thousands and thousands of people. But, it just makes a lot more sense to have you guys share this, if you get any value. But all right, aside from all that, I'm gonna shut up. Let's dive into what I'm going to talk about today. Now, I know many of you are in the entrepreneurial space. Many of you are business owners or even musicians. You might be a rapper, you might be an artist, and you're just starting out. And it can be very, very overwhelming. Chances are it is overwhelming. Not can, it is. And this is something that I've started to develop a keen self-awareness for, and that is the comparison of myself and my current situation to that of another person, and recognizing how far I am from being in that person's shoes. And many people speak about this, but it seems to always go over my head. And then I started to really understand why I was doing this. You see, I have an understanding of what I want my life to be like. I have an understanding of what I want to look like, what shape I want to be in, how I want to dress, how I want to look, how I want to speak, how I want to live, how many people I want to talk to and affect in their lives in a positive manner. And because of that, I found myself looking at these other entrepreneurs who were 30 or 40 years old, who have done all of the things that I want to do, but instead of viewing it with a positive perspective and with a positive attitude, I was looking at them and almost feeling depressed, because I'm like, wow, I have a long ways to go. And then I took a step back and I was like, Isaac, hold on a second. You're young as heck. You're young. You're not even 20 yet. Give yourself a break and recognize that those people were once at a very similar place that you were at. Their stories might be a little bit different. They probably were different. But through time, through hardships, through trial and error, through development, they became the people who they are today. Once I started viewing it with that perspective, I had a surge of optimism come over me. I've been going on a lot of walks lately, and I'll go on a 30-minute, 45-minute walk around the neighborhood and, just feel the sun beating down on my face, and I listen to an audio, or I might listen to music, and I'll use that time to really reflect and think. And the other day when I went on this walk and I had this kind of eureka realization, I felt super empowered, because I was like, man, if I am the creator of my own life, see back to episode 21 if you're curious to know what I'm talking about. So if I'm a creator of my own life, and then at the same time, if these people didn't become these great entrepreneurs or business people overnight, then that means that I am in control of creating who I want to become. Wow. So instead of viewing it with the perspective of, man, I'm so far behind and focusing on the distance and the gap in between, instead I'm focusing on the power that I have to apply little things every single day to become like that person I want to become in the future. Now, I would never completely become anyone else. I want to be Isaac Mashman. I am Isaac Mashman. I always want to be unique. But what I do see value in is looking at what people have and taking the best parts of their personality or their lives and applying it into the perfect life that I could see fit. So for example, one mentor might be a fantastic speaker. They might have the best speaking voice ever. They might be speaking in front of stages of thousands and thousands of people. I might take that aspect of their life, and then I might take the six-pack abs and the health and wellness from, let's say, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I might take that and apply it into my life. And then I might take charisma from Kevin Hart, and then I might go ahead and take the empathy from Gary Vee, and I'll combine all of these phenomenal traits because they're role models for who we should be. When we're younger, we look to our parents to be role model or to be our role models. We look to other people in our lives like teachers, like superheroes, like firefighters, like officers to be our role models. But it's like as we get older, those role models almost fade out. Or if we have a role model, they're a negative one. Just because someone is in the mainstream and someone is a celebrity doesn't mean they are a positive role model for you to follow. That's a topic for another time. But what I've done is I've taken these good traits and I've made the perfect image of what I could, well, I say perfect. I don't want to use perfect in a very stern way. Perfect is always going to be subjective. I want you guys to understand that. And what you see as good might not be what I see as good. That's the power of being human. That's the power of having our own opinions. I just wanted to address that. But what I've done is I've taken all of these traits and now I'm like, this would help me as Isaac Mashman be the very best version I can be and be that version of myself that my younger self would look up to. There's a line in one of Russ's songs and he's like, I was listening to my old discography and I recognized that I became the person who I used to look up to. Now, that's not the exact lyrics, but that's what it meant. And I was like, wow, that's powerful because we can't, how do you expect to become the very best person and become this figure overnight? If we can agree that success doesn't happen overnight, then how does transformation happen overnight? It's like if you're obesely overweight and you're 120 pounds overweight, you can't lose 120 pounds in one night. You can't. It takes effort. Now, you might be able to lose 120 pounds in 3 months or 4 months. That's been done before. But even then, that's 3-4 months. That's 90 to 100 plus days with an immense amount of effort. It doesn't happen overnight. If you want to speak another language, it's not like we have some limitless pill that we take and then next thing we know, we're able to learn Italian, French, and Arabic all in one day. That's not the case. It takes years of study. It takes years of application. It takes you diving into the culture and diving into the language to learn that language. If you want to be a great professor of algebra, you don't learn algebra overnight. You go to school for it. If you want to be a doctor, you go to school for 8 years. You want to be a dentist, you go to school for 8 years. You want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, guess what? It even takes time to develop and become the business owner that you should be. It's really easy to go online and file for an LLC or put entrepreneur or business owner or rapper or artist in your bio, but are you just going to be like every other person online? Are you going to be like every other person out there? Are you going to be like every other artist out there? Or are you going to be the very best at what it is you're doing? Are you going to be the very best version of John Doe? Are you going to be the very best version of Jennifer? Are you going to be the very best version of Isaac Mashman? You see, we should always be striving for better. That is why I've rephrased my entire brand based around live without limitations, because there is absolutely no limit to what we can accomplish. But at the same time, if we spend all of our time focusing on how far we are from being that person we want to be, then we will never get there because we will be trapped in a scarcity mindset within our own minds, guys. Our minds will make us or break us. And I just, I've been trying to put a lot more emphasis into my podcast, and I was sitting here thinking before I was recording about just the power of being in control of who you become. And I've been diving back into podcasts as well and into my self-development routine. And I was listening to the Ed Mylett show today, and he had a guest on, and he was, I believe it was Jim Rome, who is one of the, all-time greatest sportscasters, I guess. I never really heard of him prior to the podcast, but he was saying how he started and he was rejected from his job. He was hired and then fired. And then, whenever he first got on, a whole bunch of people hated him and said that he would never do anything related to the sports and that he wasn't meant for that and that he was a horrible salesperson and all these different things, all these reasons why not. And then fast forward, now he's, in the Hall of Fame of all-time greatest sportscasters. It's like these people start from somewhere. There's another interview with Randy Jackson from American Idol, a singer and whatnot. And he was saying how there was a time when he was grinding it out trying to make his breakthrough. They talked about Jennifer Lopez, and they're like, Randy mentioned, Randy's obviously probably hung out with Jennifer Lopez on a multitude of occasions. He was saying that there was a time when she was that young girl from the Bronx who was working hard to get her breakthrough, and now she's been in the game for over 20 years. All of these people we look up to, whether that's Gary Vee, Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, the President Barack Obama, whoever, they all started somewhere. Not everyone, and I imagine very few of you, if you are listening to this right now, came from families of affluence or fame. I doubt that many of you were given everything growing up. I highly doubt that. So if these people who came from similar backgrounds as we did worked their entire lives or worked a couple of years of their life to have a breakthrough and become the person who we look up to, then doesn't it make sense for us to be viewing these things with an attitude of optimism rather than pessimism? I could continue beating around the bush, or I could continue talking about this, but I think I got the point across. It's like, guys, be glad, be happy, be joyful that we too can become our role models. But it will take time. We have to be patient. We have to persevere. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep learning. We have to keep studying. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's a beautiful thing. Empires were not built overnight. Relationships are not established overnight. It takes time to grow. It takes time to grow an oak tree. An oak tree doesn't become a mighty tree that can withstand lightning and thunderstorms and earthquakes and all these other things overnight. It takes hundreds of years. Thankfully with us, we can become these people as quickly as we want to. That's the great thing. Within 12 months, you can go from being a nobody to being a somebody. Lil Nas X at the beginning of 2019 said, give me a couple months and I'm about to blow up. Fast forward, guess what? He broke a whole bunch of Billboard records and he's a somebody now in society. And I'm not saying somebody as like, you have to be a celebrity. Somebody is whatever you define somebody as. Because I know that every single one of you have a version of yourself that you want to become. That definition of somebody to you it might be different than my version of somebody. But again, it goes back to the concept of being in control of our opinions and, varying from person to person. I would hate to live in a world if we all thought the same way. If we all had the same exact ideas, man, that would be a boring world. I love the uniqueness. I love that some of you have a different attitude towards things. I love that you have different opinions. I love that you have different goals and aspirations and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's awesome. We live in a fantastic world. We live in a fantastic time, and we have fantastic capabilities as humans. So without further ado, guys, if you got any ounce of value, like I said at the beginning, please share this with somebody and be on the lookout for a lot of fantastic content. I'm going to be doing a lot more episodes. I hate saying that because it's like every single time I say that, it's like there goes a couple weeks where I don't do an episode, but I've been recording a ton of different content, so no need to worry about that ever happening. And, go ahead, tweet at me, at Isaac Mashman. Go follow me at Isaac Mashman and go to isaacmashman.com. And if you're an artist, a musician, and you need help with your brand or anything like that, definitely message me because I got something in the works that you guys would definitely love to be in on. So, much love, and always, always live without limitations.